Coming up on this episode of The Coder's Couch, why should she get married to you? It is already so hard being a woman in today's society.
That is stupid.
That's maybe a hot take in today's society, but screw society.
Welcome back, you hoodlums.
Yes indeed. Welcome back. All right, welcome back
Hoodlums.
to episode
Hoodlums.
of The Coder's Couch. We cater to the hoodlum variety. Welcome back.
Hoodlums. Okay, we're done.
Oh, welcome back. Sorry it's been so long, but we're back. We're going to finish answering those questions. How have you been, my love?
I'm good. I've been good. Yeah. Keeping busy.
Yeah?
Working on some neat stuff.
Some neat stuff. Do you want to share with the viewers?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
They can't know yet. All they need to know is BVD freelance designs. Tuck that away in your back pocket.
There we go. Tuck that away in your back pocket. You heard it here first, folks. All right.
How have you been?
Been good. I finished my second semester. Let's go.
Let's go.
Didn't turn out to be quite the mess that I was anticipating. Turned out pretty well, actually. So, really happy about that. Really grateful for that. Yeah.
Hoodlums.
We are
Hoodlums.
already done. All right, we're gonna finish the engagement questions from my classmate Micaiah and her fiance Derek. So once again, thank you Micaiah and Derek for getting us these questions. These have been fun to think about and to relive the memories of when we were engaged both times.
Oh, the memories.
Yeah, it has been good. Jump in and we'll go back to, we accidentally missed one of Micaiah's. So question 12 of Micaiah's. She asked, did you do premarital counseling? This is the one we swear we answered, but I couldn't find it anywhere in the recording. So we must have talked about it, I think just with other friends. So, did you do premarital counseling? Do you think it's helpful or even necessary for every couple? I wouldn't say necessary. I would lean toward helpful, like beneficial. I think if you've got some good counseling or mentoring or whatever kind of preparation that you're looking at or looking for, if you've got good leaders that are going to set you up well for success, then yes, you can gain a lot from that. We had premarital mentoring from a couple in our church that we got set up with through the church. We just started having some conversations and they gave us the option of counseling versus mentoring. We're big advocates for mentoring, and so we went with mentoring, and it was a blast. It was awesome.
It was good.
Yeah. The couple that we met with, and we just met with an older couple in our church. And by, I don't mean old, I mean like middle-aged.
Yeah.
But they were older than us and they were great. So they really walked beside us, answered a lot of questions. We had most of the sessions together and then a couple sessions, or at least one that I can think of, where we did separate. Like we met at the church together and then we broke off and me and the husband went off one way and you and the wife stayed put and got to talk about different things. And then we got to come back, reconvene and talk again. And that was good. Super grateful for them. And so now we've got a good relationship with another couple in the church.
Yeah, I thought the mentoring that we did was beneficial for us because I think we asked a lot of questions that were asked were questions that maybe you would cover in traditional premarital counseling, but then other questions were more questions along the lines of doing life together and more on that traditional like mentoring side of things. It was really cool to get both perspectives in one thing. And then alongside that, we were doing couples counseling. And so I think we just got a really good mixture of all of the things and all of the questions. And I really enjoyed it. I would recommend premarital mentoring to anybody. Nothing against premarital counseling. I think premarital counseling is good too, but I think mentoring just gives you a different look and a different aspect into marriage, and you maybe cover a bit more ground than you would with the traditional premarital counseling.
Yes. I feel like it's more when you're preparing for marriage, it is a huge blessing to be able to see like real life through the eyes of a couple rather than only getting like a prescribed curriculum. And so being able to actually ask real questions like you've done here, ask these questions to a mentor couple, that's amazing. Yeah, I think would highly recommend. I would encourage you to, this is specific to Micaiah and Derek, go like get coffee with our other classmate Jasmine and her husband. I know they have a lot of good things to say as well. And they look forward to like talking with other couples and doing that kind of mentoring-ish thing. So would highly recommend that. For everybody else, you're kind of just SOL because you guys don't know Jasmine and her husband.
But if you do have people around you
but if you do,
that can offer that.
The reason I recommend Jasmine is because they're passionate about walking alongside other couples. And so if you have a couple like that in your life, go sit down with them, buy them coffee, buy them supper, do something, pick their brain.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, can we ask you questions so that we know what to we have a better idea of what to expect when we get married. So do that. All right. Now, Micaiah, get out of here. Sorry, just your questions, not you. You can stay if you're listening. Derek's questions. Thank you so much. I just want to say off the bat that these questions are phenomenal. I think they're so good. I'm impressed with a man who can ask questions like these because it shows that he's going to really invest in a great marriage. All right. So question 1, how can couples balance the excitement of engagement while staying focused on the wedding planning process?
I think a similar question was asked with Micaiah, but I think really setting aside certain times and days for wedding planning and then using the other days to go on dates or keep telling waiters and waitresses that you just got engaged. I
For all the freebies.
Keeps it exciting, and then people are just like consistently like, oh my gosh, congratulations.
Oh yes, I see.
I mean, also, for the freebies.
Yeah, if you keep sharing, like if you every time you go visit your parents and they're like, hey guys, did you know we got engaged? They're gonna be like, yes, we know. But if you tell all the waitresses and waiters and Uber drivers and all the people that you have never met before, they're gonna hype you up so much.
Yeah, and then I think taking engagement photos also helps you live in that excitement too. Taking the photos, getting them back. I think I still look back at our engagement photos and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love these. For Micaiah, always appreciate the ring. I still even married, I feel like I'm always looking at my ring like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. I can't imagine, I can't believe that this happened. That still keeps it kind of lively and exciting too. And then also start calling each other fiance whenever you get the chance. I think that just adds a fun little thing to it because you only get to say that for so long. And then you get the excitement of saying, oh, my husband, oh, my wife. But in this moment, while you're engaged, call each other fiance, live into that. Be playful with it.
Yeah, man, the first time you tell somebody, oh, let me talk to my husband, wife, like the first time you tell somebody else that, it's going to be surreal. You're going to be like, whoa, did those words just come out of my mouth? So that's fun. Yes. Do all that. I think part of where this question is coming from is how much work goes into wedding planning and how it can really easily steal excitement and become just so much work that it takes away from the excitement of engagement. And so I echo my wife and echo what we had already said in earlier episodes, early on in the process, which I know you guys are past, but for anybody else, early in the engagement process, set up a schedule, like Bree said, set up a schedule of like, all right, these are the nights we're going to do wedding planning, and these are the nights we're just going to enjoy together. Because then it's very similar to a budget. Like if you know you have money set aside for something, you're much more likely to enjoy the other money that you're spending on something else. So like if you know you have your groceries covered, you can go out for a night with friends or something because you know your groceries are covered. You don't have to worry about like, oh, can I even spend this money because it's for something else? That's the first comparison that comes to my mind. It's really just about saying like, I've already planned for this big thing. And so all of the rest of the time, I just get to enjoy. Have that split of this is wedding planning time and this is just us time. And I think that's going to prevent the wedding planning stress from creeping in. And have boundaries. I mean, you're probably going to have nights where you're just supposed to hang out. And then it's like, there's going to be some of the to-do list items that creep into your mind, and you're going to maybe feel a little bit of stress and say like, oh gosh, but we need to do this. Oh, we feel like we're wasting time. Like just take a breath, slow down a bit, and remind yourself, no, we have the time and we planned for this and it's going to get done, just not right now. So have those boundaries and stick to them. Question 2, what are some key steps to take during the engagement period to ensure you're truly ready for marriage beyond just the wedding day? All right, so here's what you do. You take your wedding budget, you split it in half. Half of it goes to the wedding. The other half you set aside for couples counseling afterward. That is a pro tip. There you go. That's free for you guys. I heard that from an older married couple, so I thought that was pretty good. Just a joke, although it probably wouldn't be bad, actually. I think have conversations with couples who have a marriage you want to emulate. So we talked about this in one of the previous episodes about like being teachable and finding couples who have the lives that you want. And so talk to them. They're going to tell you some of the specific things that you're going to need to know and want to know, especially if these couples know you already. They're probably going to be able to speak into your situation. But I think if you can surround yourself with couples who are already doing what you want, just goes back to mentoring, or you could apply this to career or sports or business or whatever. Just like find the person doing the thing you want to do and go talk to them.
Yeah. Wow. Are we married? We thought of these questions, or we came up with some predetermined answers to these questions separately.
We answered these questions ahead of time just to save us, so that it wouldn't, take an hour and a half to record an episode, or was it? I think it was 2.5 hours. First part. And now we're just hearing each other's answers. Yeah,
which is so funny because they're like the exact same. I would definitely say couples counseling, whether I honestly would vote for before you guys even get married to start looking into that and investing in it. We did that alongside our premarital mentoring. And I thought it was just beneficial because you will learn way different things in counseling than you will like your premarital counseling, right? I feel like things just go a little bit deeper, and you start to ask different questions when you're in couples counseling. And so I would always vote for that. And then I agree. Yeah. Meet with other married couples, especially ones that you look up to or that you hope to be like, and ask them what are things that they talked about or things that they wish they had talked about. I think one of the big things that's going to come out of those conversations is making sure that you're somewhat aligned on expectations. I think we covered this in the first episode too. Expectations are so big, whether that's finances, sex, time together versus time apart, chores, whatever. I think there's going to be a really good conversation that comes out of those that will help set you up and know, like, yes, this is my person because we are so aligned, or like, whoa, we are totally different. Like, maybe we need to take a step back here, because there will be some like non-negotiables that I think will come out of those expectations. And so just being willing to have those conversations and be real and vulnerable and honest and dive deep will set you guys up will set you guys up way better when you're married. And I think too, some of those will come out of the couples counseling if you choose to pursue that.
Yeah. And if your expectation is, I think it's good to have the expectation that we probably don't have all the answers now, but we're going to figure it out when we get there. I think if you have like a teamwork expectation, because that is an expectation of like, well, when something comes up that we don't know how to handle, we're going to turn to each other. Like if that's your expectation, you're going to do really well, because when you get into those moments after marriage and things probably will come up that you are like, whoa, didn't expect this one. If you're not turning to each other, it's probably going to cause tension. But if you are, then it's going to be relatively smooth sailing and you'll figure it out together. What else? I was going to mention something you had said. Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, couples counseling was really helpful. I thought that we had a lot of good stuff figured out before we got married and in our engagement and stuff, but sitting with an actual licensed counselor for couples counseling really made everything click into place. And in terms of like the questions that don't get addressed in premarital, but do get asked in a counselor's office, such as family of origin questions. I thought that was a really vital piece that we needed to explore that we hadn't yet, or at least hadn't at the depth that we needed to. And we really benefited from sitting with a counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's probably, what's your thing gonna be? There's probably something like that for many, many couples. All right. Question 3, what practical financial steps should couples take before marriage to make the transition smoother and set themselves up for long-term success? Do you want to take this one first?
Sure. I have a lot of thoughts on this one.
Really? I thought I would have the longer list.
My first practical step is save. Like, yes, you still want to enjoy dating. Yes, you still want to enjoy some of your singleness, going out with your friends. But also, if you can start saving for your future, I think you will be far more relieved than you would be if you just spent all your money. I think with that comes pay off any debt that you have if you're able to, whether that's loans or credit cards, whether they're small amounts or big amounts, whatever you're able to pay off, you should, because I think that'll allow you to save more money in the long run and set you and your spouse up for success in paying things off in the future, or being able to handle your money, like figuring out how to handle your money better too. So if you're able to pay off debt, because debt is stupid. Talk about your money habits and figure out where each of you stands. Are you a really big spender? Are you a really big saver? Typically, I feel like there's going to be one of each in the relationship. So figure out who you are and figure out what those tendencies are, and then talk about those. What are your expectations going to be around money when you get married? Because if you can set up some expectations now and start taking the steps to maybe make a switch or a change, then I think you should. If that's going from being a huge spender and saying, no, I think I want to practice saving my money so that me and my spouse are set up for success in the long run, then do that. Or if, I don't know, Maybe it's a habit around, yeah, say if you eat out all the time, say you're eating out 4 or 5 times a week, what would it look like if you started eating out 3 times a week and putting that extra money away or whatever? Maybe you have like a piggy bank, or you can actually put it in the bank. But I think a piggy bank is a little bit more fun. But start practicing like putting money away, because when you get married, you're gonna want to save. There's so much that costs money. I know, it's crazy. There's so much that costs money, especially after you get married, because now there's not just one of you, there's 2 of you. And so whatever you and your spouse can be saving before you get married, I think is going to be the thing that sets you up best in the long run and gives you the most success, and also gives you peace of mind and a buffer and all these other things that come with saving your money instead of spending. I think you will get down the line, maybe a year or 2 into your marriage, and look back and be very grateful and thankful that you did, because there's always things that are going to be coming up that you are going to need to learn to save for. And if you don't know how to save, then it's going to be hard to do that. And if you can start practicing that now with your own money before you combine it with your spouse, and they can be doing the same thing, then ideally that would set you guys up to be on the same page when you do get married and your money is combined, if that's what you choose to do, and will help you moving forward to be able to actually effectively save for those things coming up.
Yes. Save your money, stop your discriminatory spending right now, and start setting aside that money, because trust us, you're gonna find something that you're gonna want to spend it on later. Like, don't worry about like, well, then I just have all this money sitting around. Who doesn't want that problem? Who doesn't want too much money than what they can spend? So like when we started preparing for my transition out of my full-time job into grad school, we created a line item in our budget called the uncertainty fund, because we didn't know what the heck we would be spending the money on, but we just knew we would need extra money for something. And so it was our safety net, our catch-all. It was like a second emergency fund. And that has come in handy so many times. It's been awesome. There are some things that we like knew that we anticipated expenses coming up, and we're like, oh, well, if we need some extra in this area, then we'll just take from the uncertainty fund. And then there were some that we didn't. And so treating it more like an emergency fund, we're like, oh, well, we didn't plan for this, but hey, at least we have the money for it. So that was good. Practical things. Yes, practical things. Pay off your consumer debt. That is everything from credit cards, car loans, student loans. Basically not a mortgage if you have one, which I don't think you guys do. But for anybody else listening, if you have a mortgage, don't worry about it. Pay off all your consumer debt before you get married, if possible. I think I said this in a previous episode, but I've heard so many stories of people who had to put off things, big dreams like buying a house or traveling or having kids or whatever, because of debt. And if you want to know how much of a difference this makes in your life, you've probably done this before in couples counseling, but go ahead and make a mock budget together of your income and her income, or like expected income. If you guys don't have full-time jobs, but you will soon, kind of thing, your expected income, and then list out all of your expenses, like subscriptions included, rent, groceries, subscriptions. Feel free to make estimates, or just Google like average cost per month for a family of 2, for a couple, in the US, of like groceries, of car maintenance bills, of gas, of whatever. Like just use those estimates. It'll get you close enough. And then also total up all of your debt payments, and then ask yourself, would an extra $100, $200, $300, $400, like however many dollars your debt payments are, would an extra that amount of money each month make a difference in our life, like going towards something else? If the answer is yes, then try to pay off your debt as soon as possible. If the answer is no, well, then good for you. Hey, you're a little bit more comfortable than most. Then I still suggest paying off your debt, because think about how much you can do with like your existing margin plus the debt payments and stuff. Like that could go toward a house, or something like that, some other big goal. Yeah, I'm a big proponent that having no debt gives you freedom, and freedom means options. And so I think we all want as many options as possible. Pursue options, have the freedom.
Yeah.
Live a life you want, not the life you're told to do. Let's go to question 6. Yes. Wow. Same way. Are we married?
I don't know.
Wow.
We must be.
Jumping ahead, 2 questions. Question 6. Did you discuss finances in depth with your fiance before getting engaged, or did that come later? What financial conversations do you think every couple should have before marriage? I wrote, yes, I think engagement is a perfectly reasonable time to go in depth, even to the point of showing each other your bank accounts and spending habits with finances.
Yeah.
So yes, we did. And I think we came up with a mock budget at least once.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. I had shown you mine, at least my personal budget, and we tried budgeting for you and whatnot. So like we kind of already knew a lot of the financial habits and stuff. And we talked about like, all right, now when we get married, like we might not be able to do this thing, that thing, spend money this way, that way, like all that kind of stuff. We had those conversations and just trying to get on the same page again, back to expectations. And so I thought that was really helpful. I think this is the time. This is the time. You're much better off talking about this kind of thing before you're married. Best case scenario, you're already on the same page. So like, no worries. It was a good conversation to have. Probably sets you up for more financial conversations once you're married, and it makes like going over a joint budget that much smoother. Worst case scenario, you find something that you are definitely glad you found and talked about before you say I do.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully nothing that's a actual deal breaker, but it's something that you're going to want to address, because if you get blindsided after marriage, there might be a chance of resentment there and anger and hurt. And that's just, if we can avoid that, let's avoid that.
Yeah.
Things I think couples should discuss: your debt philosophy or your stance on debt. Like, are we comfortable with it? Are we going to use credit cards? Are we going to have car loans around? How soon do we want to pay off the student loans? All of that kind of stuff. Anything and everything around debt. I think you should talk about how you're going to manage the budget. This goes into probably one of you is like Brie was saying earlier, one of you is a free spirit and the other one is more of a budgeter or an accountant or a nerd. Actually, that's the Dave Ramsey term for it. One is a free spirit, the other is the nerd. And so chances are the nerd is the one who likes doing the budget and likes looking at all the numbers. And I think you guys should talk about who's actually going to, there's probably going to be like the nerd is going to be the one actually keeping up on the budget, but both of you decide on the budget. Both of you set the budget. Yeah. But one of you is probably going to be in charge of like keeping it up to date and tracking expenses and making sure that you're still spending within limits. And then warning the other of like, hey, we only have $50 left to spend on groceries this week. So like, let's be mindful about what we're buying, like that kind of thing. And then you should definitely talk about how you're going to do your bank accounts, joint bank accounts, separate bank accounts, combo of both. Of course, we recommend joint, but at least you'll be on the same page if you have that conversation. Yeah. You at least want to be on the same page. There you go. Have a conversation about how you're going to, with one of you being a free spirit and the other being a nerd, have the conversation about how you're going to navigate financial discipline when necessary, because that's going to come up. There's probably going to be something that one of you is like, ooh, I really want to buy this. And the other one is going to have to say, well, wait a minute, we can't afford that. And you're going to have to navigate those conversations. If you can say, we would love to handle those with grace and dignity and honor and still be really gentle with each other, that would be great. Or if you're gonna just like, well, we'll just pull up the budget and point out the facts, that works too. But have a conversation about that.
Yeah, I think this is the conversation that you should be having before you get married, because finances are one of the top reasons why people get divorced in the US. And so if you would like to avoid that, I think a very practical way is to talk about it. I had a lot of similar points to you. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. I think some other things to be considered too, especially if you're Christian, is how much are you putting away for giving? The standard 10%, or are you comfortable giving more? Or less.
If you have to.
Yeah, I guess if you have to.
We would advocate for 10%.
Yeah.
We've seen so much of God's faithfulness time and time again when we agree and say, okay, 10%, we feel like that's what the Lord is calling us to. That's what the Lord is asking. So we're going to give that even when things are tight.
Yeah.
We trust that he's going to provide. He has time and time again. It's actually, wait, was it not that? There we go. That's the one I was looking for. So, a quick soapbox speech on tithing. Malachi chapter 3 verse 10. This is one that's really resonated with me when I think about giving and like maybe finances are tight and I'm like, but I really need this money for something else. My dad taught me a lot about tithing, so I'm super grateful for that. He always said you can't outgive God, and I think that's a quaint little saying, but God even says it himself. So Malachi 3 verse 10, God says, bring the full tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house, and thereby put me to the test, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour down for you a blessing until there is no more need. God says, go ahead, put him to the test, and he will provide. And so we've seen it in our life. I think that I echo Bree. And so, yeah, definitely have that conversation. I think I would recommend 10%. Bree recommends 10%.
Yeah. We
would also, if your tithe, like have a conversation about what your tithe looks like. Does it mean just giving to the church? Does it mean just giving in general? Like we really enjoy giving, like as part of our tithe. We like being the hands and feet of Jesus in a way that's like we tip waitresses and waiters and baristas. Like we try to tip generously because we're trying to like, it's one thing to just like put your offering in, the offering plate when it goes by in church and that kind of thing. But it's a totally different thing to like actually go out and serve your community and try to give that way. Yeah. And so we would highly recommend that as well. In place of, or in addition to, if you have the margin, your existing tithe to the church.
Yep. Yeah. Other than that, I think also, this kind of goes back to the debt thing, but like, will you guys have credit cards or will you just have debit cards? If you have a credit card, what's it used for? How often is it used? If not at all, just having those conversations, be aware of the cards that you're coming into the marriage with and the cards that you want to keep in the marriage. And then the last one is, what was your view of money growing up and how did your parents spend money? I think that's a really big conversation because it's likely you come from two very different families. And so you have to decide, do we want to spend and use our money the way my parents did or the way Jason's parents did? Or do we find something that's in the middle of what our parents did? Or do we try something completely different and just totally go rogue, go our own way and figure out something that is going to work for us in the way that we both enjoy spending and saving money? So just be thinking about those two, just keeping in mind that, you both come from very different backgrounds, and that is definitely going to play into how you spend your money, how you save your money, where your money goes, and all that.
Yes. On that last bit about knowing what your view of what your view of money is coming into the marriage, I would highly recommend Rachel Cruz. Yes, that's Dave Ramsey's daughter. Rachel Cruz's her book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, talks about that. It talks about like getting to understand your view of money and where it comes from. Does it come from your parents? Are your principles based on what you saw from your parents, or maybe what you didn't get from your parents and you were just forced to figure it out yourself? But there's like a matrix that she has, and you can probably find a pretty short YouTube video on it about how much to talk about money in your house and the security versus insecurity and like things like that. Would highly recommend having those conversations. Number 4. Question number 4, we're jumping back. What's the most unexpected challenge you faced during your engagement and how did you overcome it? You don't have an answer?
I couldn't think of one.
No? Okay.
So if you have one, maybe yours will spark something.
I think, okay, so the most unexpected, relatively speaking, I don't know if it was that unexpected, but it was certainly the biggest one. So within our goal of paying cash for our wedding, I was caught off guard by how tight the timeline was going to be. it was, so I was working my full-time job, Bree was working her full-time job, and then I was door dashing at night. Typically at night.
At night.
I was door dashing every night that we weren't having date nights, which was what, Tuesdays and Thursdays were our date nights.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was door dashing everything else, especially on the weekends, because the weekends are your money making nights when you're door dashing.
Yeah.
And when I was running the numbers, it was basically like, in order to pay cash for the wedding, I am going to be door dashing like up until October, like until basically like the week of our wedding, we might have enough money to pay cash. And if you guys are dealing with vendors and the venue and all that kind of stuff, like you need to have those deposits in pretty early. And so that was just kind of like, maybe would have worked, was still pretty stressful. We were trying to figure out like, how's this going to work? I would have to work my butt off all the time and get it to work. Or my car was paid off. And so I had thought about, well, could I just sell my car and then get something cheaper? And with what's left over, could we put that toward the wedding? And that was, I think, the most unexpected challenge. And that for me was my first quote unquote like big decision for my new family. When I was thinking about it, I was like, this is the kind of sacrifice that husbands sometimes have to make. This is what spouses should do for their family. Mm-hmm. Like for the good of this new family, this new household that we were creating, this is the best option. I could sell my car, even though I loved my car. My car at the time, so good, never had a better car. But I knew sell the car and eliminate the remaining, like all of the stress from wedding planning, or keep the car, continue door dashing, and like maybe have enough money to pay cash. And so decided to sell my car. Ended up selling it to a friend. Super happy about that. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad it ended up with somebody really good.
Yeah.
Him and his wife actually relatively recently married. I think they got married right before us, mm-hmm. like the summer before us. And so really happy that we could help them out. He was driving like a 2000 Buick and mine was a 2015. And so super happy that we could help them out. Super happy it was going to somebody I knew would take care of it and treat it well, but still hard, but like so worth it. So I think that was the one for me.
Yeah, I think I came up with one. I think the most unexpected challenge for me was all the input that I was going to get from family members. There were some family members that I have never spoken to more than during our engagement process, and they just like came out of nowhere of like, I have this idea and what about this, and here's my 2 cents, and are these people going to be on the guest list, and what about this person, and what about this thing over here? Like, I think it just totally caught me off guard. Like some of these family members or soon to be family members that I never really spoke to all of a sudden were reaching out. And while I love that they wanted to give their input and they wanted to be involved, I guess I just wasn't expecting that much right away. And we kind of talked about this a little bit in Micaiah's questions too, of balancing what input you take versus what you don't and who you take it from and all of that good stuff. But that was probably the biggest unexpected challenge for me. Was I had basically the whole entire wedding planned out. I've basically had my wedding planned out since I was like 6, right? As a woman does. And so to have other people, especially from Jason's family, come in and start proposing all these different ideas and these different concepts and different people that should be on our guest list and all that stuff, I think totally just caught me off guard. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. And I think we talked about kind of how to navigate that in the first couple parts. So question 5. All right. How did you approach the idea of tradition in your wedding? Were there certain things you felt strongly about upholding or breaking? On my end, I know like we wanted a unity thing. And so we ended up washing each other's feet. We wanted a receiving line, which our wedding coordinator, I think because she's not from the Midwest, talked us out of, or at least the kind of receiving line we had in mind, but we got to work it in by serving everybody dinner, which I think we talked about in some of the first episodes. So we served everybody dinner, and then that was kind of our receiving line. Like everybody got to talk to us. And so that was really special. I, got to wear my grandfather's cufflinks. I mentioned that before. But other than that, I don't think there was a lot of tradition on my end.
Yeah, I think we honestly did more of like breaking tradition than we did following tradition, like where the bride stands versus the groom. Like we switched that.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
And what you usually give for food, we decided to give pizza and serve it. And like we didn't do the traditional unity thing, right? We did the foot washing and the typical songs that you hear for walking down the aisle and exiting the aisle, like totally different than what we chose. And so
we did not play Elvis Presley's Falling in Love.
No, we didn't. We did not. But yeah, I think I wanted to be more what is us versus what are these traditional things that we should do. I think really the most traditional thing that we had was we had a flower girl and a ring bearer. Mm-hmm. And then I think the dances, like we had your traditional father-daughter, mother-son, we had our traditional first dance and some of those things. Otherwise, I think we had family members who had more traditions that they wanted than what we wanted. And yeah, some of them we took and we were like, yeah, we have no...
We don't care.
Yeah, sure, why not? It doesn't affect us. Otherwise, yeah, I feel like I tried a little bit harder than probably the typical person would to avoid the traditional cliche, like this is what a wedding's supposed to look like.
We specifically did not read anything from 1 Corinthians 13.
Yes. Oh.
Boy, they.
Our Bible readings were not traditional.
Not your traditional wedding Bible readings.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like we strayed away from tradition a little bit more than we did follow tradition, but we still had some things sprinkled throughout.
The important thing is that we got the wedding we wanted.
Yes.
And so I say, if you want tradition, get it. And if there's something that you don't feel strongly about, but maybe somebody else wants tradition in that place, sure, why not? Entertain the idea. Mm-hmm. And if it fits, great. If it will detract from your wedding day, then it's worth having a conversation with your fiance and asking like, okay, do we want to set a boundary here? Do we want to say no? What do we want? But at the end of the day, like have the day you want, because you don't want to be on the other side of your wedding day saying like, well, I ended up doing what everybody else wanted instead of what I wanted.
Yeah.
So, all right. Question 7.
Now we get into all your questions and I don't have anything to say because I'm not a boy.
No, you can say stuff. You can say stuff. All right. Question 7. These are the questions I'm really impressed with. So thank you, Derek. Okay. How did you deal with the societal or family expectations of being the, quote, man of the house once you got married? Did these expectations change during your engagement? So overall, I'll say that I typically deal with expectations of all kinds by saying, screw the expectations, I'm going to be doing what's best for my family. And so we can think about the specifics of what you're maybe quote unquote supposed to do as the man of the house. But I tried to approach this by surrounding myself with older men and with resources such as podcasts or books about what this could realistically look like to provide for my wife, to protect my wife, to think about putting my new family first, all of that kind of stuff. So if you take all the stuff that you have an idea of like what being the man of the house means to you, if you take all that stuff, some of it will probably never happen. And then the other part of it probably won't play out how it is in your head. So it's going to be better to just start asking questions of trusted men in your life and men who have probably gone through that kind of stuff before. By and large, I don't care what expectations are placed on me from others. I'm just going to do what I'm convinced is best for me and my family by studying scripture, by praying, by following the promptings of the Holy Spirit, and then by seeking wisdom from other godly men that I trust.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think that's all good.
How'd that work out on your side? She didn't notice, so obviously I didn't make any big mistakes there.
I think I don't know that I noticed any major changes, but I think just over time I could tell that you were embracing the role more and more the more you talk to older men or just other men around you who have been married for a short amount of time or a long amount of time, whatever it was. I think there was a switch in maybe your confidence in the way that you approached our marriage and our wedding and the conversations we had about our family and what we wanted things to look like, which I thought was really cool. The other thing I would say is bring your spouse along for these. They don't have to be there for the conversations you have, but let them in on the conversations you're having. I think it's so important for your future wife to understand what you are thinking and feeling. And if you are feeling all these pressures, being able to lean into one another and have those conversations, I think is huge too, because I'm not a man, but just the conversations that I've had with you, it doesn't seem oh, you get married and suddenly the pressures of the man of the house go away. They're just always there. And so if you're able to bring your wife in on those and to have somebody who is in your corner and just to continue talking about with, then I think that is super beneficial for both of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that ties into question 9. How do you feel about the idea of being, quote, the leader in the relationship? How did that play out during your engagement and early marriage? All right. So I really like the idea of the husband being the leader in the relationship. That's maybe a hot take in today's society, but screw society. But I do have a couple thoughts on headship. I think it's important to stick to your own roles as described in Ephesians 5. So the important thing is when the Apostle Paul says wives, and then he speaks to wives, husbands, shut up. That's the part's not for you. Just gloss over that. Don't even think about it. Don't get in there. Don't try to weaponize it and measure what your wife is doing. And if she's measuring up in her submission to you, just let that one go. It's not for you. Let the Holy Spirit handle that one. And similarly, when Paul says husbands, the wives, let the husbands focus on that part. Just shut up, leave it alone. That's not for you. That's not written to you. If you have issues with the way that your spouse tries to fulfill their role, take it to the Holy Spirit, pray about it, and by and large, just focus on your role. Both of you, focus on your role, ask Jesus for help, leave your spouse to the Holy Spirit. Okay? That makes sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Second, I want to say being the husband, being the leader of the house is a heavy load. And so I'm going to encourage you to find some men who are married, who understand it, who can speak into that and encourage you when things get really heavy. Because it is a load that, and I agree with my friend Ethan on this. He was on the podcast a couple episodes ago and we talked about this a little bit. Wives don't really understand this until they have children, until they're in charge of somebody else. But it's a heavy load. Find some men who get it and you can talk about it and you can ask questions honestly, candidly, and just out of curiosity and the desire to be the best leader for your household. Ask the questions of hey, how do I do this? And how do I respond in love when my wife wants to do something that I don't agree with? And how can I gently love and be a shepherd in my household and not turn into a tyrant who just demands on getting his own way? Those are the questions that you should focus on, and you're going to need some men around you to help navigate those. So the Apostle Paul in Ephesians 5, he says that loving your wife should look exactly like how Christ loved the church. And nobody looks at Jesus on the cross and goes lucky, I wish I could do that. I want to be up on that cross. Nobody does that. If we're doing this right, it should look exactly like that. And it should not be an enviable position. Our wives should not be trying to like take over that position, because it is all about love and service and sacrifice, casting a vision far into the future that your wife and your family, your kids want to follow. And that is a heavy burden to bear, but we don't do it alone. We do it with the grace of God and the strength of Christ. If we're doing it right, nobody else will want to step in and take that, but you have the Lion of Judah behind you. I think that's an important piece too. People often, they get so caught up on the like, wives submit to your husbands, and they think that the wives have a heavy burden, which it is. It is a heavy burden to submit. It's a heavy thing, or a hard thing, a difficult thing sometimes, to die to yourself and to submit your will to somebody else. But I think when Christ calls us to die for our wives, that's a hard thing too. And we're not about just comparing difficulty. We're not about trying to compare and say, I have the harder job. No, I have the harder job. Like, whatever, who cares? Just focus on serving each other and loving each other. And I think a husband who gets this right is one who is admired and respected. Really, like, what's the goal here? Are you trying to like one up your spouse and say, no, I'm working harder in this relationship than you? Or are you just saying, I'm trying to look as close to Christ as possible? And I think that's something worth chasing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Again, I would encourage you to bring your wife along for the ride, or your fiance, your future wife. Have the conversation about what submission looks like. I think it can be such a tricky conversation. And so being willing to have that conversation before you get married and really dive into, what does it mean? What does it look like? What does that mean for the wife? What does that mean for the husband? And all that, I think, is very important. If your wife is not willing to submit to you or respect you before you get married, you cannot expect that to change when you are married. And I think that is something that so easily and so often gets overlooked. Is I've heard women say before, like, oh, well, I'm still an independent woman now, and that'll change when we get married. Like,
I'll submit to my husband, but you're not my husband yet.
Yes. And while there is a level of truth behind that, I think there is such a deep, unspoken thing that by you saying that, you're saying, I'm actively choosing right now to disrespect my future husband and put myself before him in literally everything. And I think that says a lot about the person that you're choosing to marry in the near future. I think just pay attention to that too, and be willing to have those conversations. It took us a while in our engagement to really get on the same page about submission, because just of the way that I had grown up with submission and how I heard about it, and then versus how he's heard about it and grown up with it and learned of it. It just took multiple conversations for us to get on the same page and to see it in a light that is very positive and very beautiful, and not this negative thing that we often see today in society.
Yeah. It has been preached so long that wives need to submit, and that maybe gets translated by bad preachers to mean that the husband makes all the decisions, the wife doesn't get a say. And that's not what we're talking about at all. I mean, that tends to be what most people think. I really would like to change that if we can. So like, hey, we got this podcast, we're talking about it. We're talking about the opposite.
Yeah.
I have so many ideas on like how to approach this conversation that inform my idea of what it means to be the head of the household and not a tyrant who just says it's my way or the highway. One of those is, if you can approach the conversation, like Brie was just saying, like she had a very poor view of headship coming into the marriage. And so when we talked about Ephesians 5, when we talked about her role to submit, she was very resistant and hesitant to like actually consider submitting, because the way she had seen it modeled earlier was very tyrannical and very just like, you're going to do what I say, you don't get a voice, I'm going to make all the decisions, and you get no opinion. And so we had a lot of conversations, and I also had to learn along the way that it was about reassuring her that like, no, I want to hear your opinion. What this means to me to be the leader is just that I get the final say, and I get like the blame will fall on me if it's a bad choice.
Right.
But I'm going to, like, I want to hear your opinion, and we're going to talk about it. And we agreed, like, all right, if we're going to come up on this decision, we're going to talk about it. If we agree, great, cool. If we disagree, then Bree can make her case, I'll make my case. And there might be sometimes, I don't think we've even faced one of these yet, that I still feel strongly like, no, my way is the correct way, and you still disagree.
Yeah.
But in the event that that happens, Bree is willing to say, all right, I'm going to let you make a stupid decision. And then we'll like deal with the consequences when we get there.
Yeah.
But that's on you. I accept that as the head of the house. I'm the one to whom the blame falls. Another way of looking at this whole idea of headship, being the leader of the household, it is already so hard being a woman in today's society. And there are a lot of reasons why she should stay on her own. I mean, it's hard being on your own, but being tied to a tyrant is far worse. So, what have you done to convince her that life with you is better than life without you?
Yeah.
Have you painted this picture? Have you crafted this vision of the lifelong adventure that the two of you can have together? This goes back to bringing her along for the leadership thing. Have you laid out this vision of like, here's what our life could be? And it's actually a picture that she says, I want that too, and I want it to be with you.
Yeah. That's
your goal. That's what you are after. Otherwise, why should she get married to you? And this is not to, specific to Micaiah and Derek. This is like anybody. I think that's what you're after. Are you a man worth following? Are you a man worth submitting to? Because again, going back to roles, knowing your role and focusing on your role, are you a man who can love his wife like Christ loved the church? Are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to give up things? Do you have a system for handling life's challenges, bringing them to your wife, navigating them together, and then looking for the best possible outcome for the good of your family? Look in the mirror, and that's maybe a bit more challenging than you wanted, or even where I had originally thought about going with the answer. But I think that's a realistic challenge, and I think that it's one that any man who thinks about getting married and taking on responsibility for the care and for the well-being of another person, such as his wife, a man should be willing to step up to that challenge. Yeah.
And I think too, just recognizing that being the leader, you might not get that full picture until you are married. And so for the wives, I know for myself, I don't trust things very easily. And so it took a little while for us to get into this good rhythm where now we're a year and a half, almost 2 years in. And I feel like now I can get to the point where it's like, okay, maybe I don't need all the details. I don't need to be a part of every single discussion. We don't have to talk about this every single night. Instead, we can have a briefer discussion. I can get fewer details, and I still have the confidence to say, okay, I trust you to make that decision for us and for our family. So let's do it. And that doesn't just happen overnight, and doesn't just happen the second you get married. So if you feel like it takes a while for your wife to fully just be able to say, yes, I trust you, like, I think that's a totally normal thing. And that goes back to what was her role model from her father, her brothers, other men around her. Like, what did that look like? If she had a really healthy picture, I think you're probably better off if she
an easier path.
Yes, if she had not a not great picture, or maybe she had no father figure at all, then I think it'll be more difficult.
Yep. Or like a previous relationship where her boyfriend treated her like trash, treated her like an object, basically said, you don't have any voice. You're just a woman. You're, that, you're not equal. And I don't value you or your opinion. Like if that's a past that you have to work through, then it's going to be a challenging road, but it's worth walking.
And I think that's all part of the conversation about this role. What does submission look like? What do you want your marriage to look like? I think those are all questions that should come up, hopefully, during engagement to try and figure those out, because the sooner you know those and the sooner you can get to the root of how they're feeling or how they're viewing things, then I think the easier it will be once you guys actually step into marriage and start putting some of those things into play.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think one last thing from me, like this is just more of a general leadership principle. When you're on a team, which marriage is, nobody wants to succeed more than your teammates, you and your teammates. Like they want to win. And so if you're coming up to a decision to be made, and for a husband, if you go to your wife and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's the plan I think we should follow, and here's the direction we should take, you should be able to, it is your responsibility to communicate the vision in a way that convinces them that it is the best possible course of action. They already want to believe you, but if you can't convince them that it's worth following, then like, why should they follow you? Why should one of your teammates follow you? Why should your wife follow you? That was a lesson I learned from my former boss. When decisions came to be made for leadership, it's like, hey, nobody wants this thing to succeed more than I do, but you know, teammate, whatever, you couldn't convince me to follow you. You couldn't convince me that your course of action was the best course of action. And I wanted to believe you. So what does that say about your course of action? And maybe that just says more about your communication skills and whatnot. But I have that in the back of my mind every time I approach Bree with an idea, a direction, just a thing. I'm thinking, is this actually an idea worth following? How am I going to talk about it? How am I going to convince her that this is the best possible course of action? Not in a manipulative way, not like I'm trying to coerce her or anything into believing that this is the best possible course of action, but just how am I going to paint this vision and let her know, like, this is what I'm thinking. This is why it's the best. Mm-hmm. Will you join me?
Yeah.
Is it just a good invitation for her to say yes to? Mm-hmm. So that's just like general leadership kind of stuff. All right, question 8. In your opinion, what's the best way to show emotional support to your fiance during the engagement period? All right. I said check in with her frequently. So ask how she's doing. I said check in with her frequently, or at least often enough to border on annoying. Make sure that she knows you're there, you're willing to help, you're willing to take things off her plate whenever you can. I've talked with you guys, with both of you, and it sounds like Micaiah has taken a lot of the planning on herself, and that's kind of similar to us. Bree, you did a lot of planning, and I was just here to give my opinion here and there, and then help out with all the like writing of addresses and sealing of invitations, like all the manual labor I was there to help with. But a lot of the decisions Bree made, and then when she required my opinion, I was there and willing to give it. So make sure that she knows you're there. Make sure she knows that she has your support in pulling this whole thing together. And that doesn't mean saying, sure, honey, whatever you want. No, don't do that. Voice your opinion. Mm-hmm. She wants your opinion. She wouldn't ask if she didn't want your opinion. And so give your honest opinion. This is going to just help your communication skills as well. If there's an argument or a disagreement here, you guys can work through it and you'll be better off for it. But I want you guys to actually voice your opinion, especially if it's an aspect of the wedding that's going to bother you. If it's like table centerpieces at the reception, if you have a strong opinion, if she has a strong opinion, if they clash, talk about it, discuss it, and get on the same page somehow, some way, probably make a compromise, something like that. But if it's like, let's say she has a strong opinion on the centerpieces and you don't really care, then you can say like, sure, whatever you want. Like, I don't really have a big opinion. It's going to be a great day no matter what. Like, regardless of the centerpieces, I'm going to enjoy it. Let her know that too. And then you just keep moving on. Go on to the next thing. If there is one of those clashes, then just let that be known in a gentle way. Don't just shoot it down. Say, well, I'm thinking this or that or the other thing, or better yet, get curious about it and try to understand what the significance of that piece of the wedding is for her. if she's like, I want these centerpieces to be this way because this is how my late grandmother did hers, that's super important. And so that probably changes the whole thing. And maybe you would not have known had you not asked.
Yeah.
And so depending on the thing, if it's like, no, I just saw this on Pinterest, this is what I want, I thought it was cute. Well, there's maybe a different conversation to be had if it's like from that versus it's a family tradition or it's an heirloom or something like that. Get curious, seek to understand all of that.
Yeah, that's all really great stuff.
Thanks.
I think too, just understand that she's going to be feeling a lot of things, whether that is excitement or stress, or maybe there's even some disappointment with some things. And I think just knowing not to take it personally, but just to be there, whether she wants to talk about it or get her mind off of it or just exist. I think just don't take it personally, because especially as a girl who maybe has had her wedding day planned out forever and she's doing most of the planning, and maybe you're just there for support or to help here and there. Her emotions are far more about the dreams that she's been building than maybe something that you had said or whatnot. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just knowing that her emotions probably are not going to be a personal attack to you. Right. And being able to get curious, ask questions, sit with her, understand her feelings, understand why she's thinking something, all those things I think are going to serve you really well. Then I think it'll make her feel less crazy too. Like, okay, somebody else gets it. Like, I have somebody who can just sit with me in this, instead of me coming to you being super stressed and then you getting all freaked out because you think I'm stressed at you, and then now you're stressed because I'm stressed, and then now I feel like, okay, well, I thought I had somebody that I could just sit with and now I don't. I think if you're cool, calm, and collected and able to just say, okay, this probably has something to do with wedding vendors, or this probably has something to do with a design not working out the way she wanted to, then I think it's going to be way easier for her to just be with you and not have all of these things flooding her mind and all of these emotions flowing as she's going through this process.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's going to be a vastly different approach emotionally if it's like she's trying to wrestle with this idea I've had in my mind for years is not going to work out the way I wanted to. Like, there is a grief to that. Mm-hmm, there's a sadness, a deep sadness to that. And she's going to probably face that on a couple things. I mean, I hope your wedding works out exactly the way you dreamed, but realistically, there might be a hiccup here and there. And so there might be some of that, like, the vendor wasn't available on this day. The venue's not what I wanted it to be. There's not enough space to do this thing that I was hoping. Like, there's going to be that. And so being present to empathize and connect with her. And again, not taking it personally. That's a hard thing that she's walking through. Mm-hmm. They're trying to give up a dream that she's had for potentially years and years and years.
Yeah. So yeah, understanding too that every detail of the wedding is a big detail for her. At least it was for me. And so avoiding phrases like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like, we can just do this other thing. Or maybe you didn't get that. That's fine. We can try a different color. Like, for her, it's going to be, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened to me. And it's going to be that for every single thing that goes wrong. And so, right, just being sympathetic, maybe sometimes just not saying anything at all too, because I would much rather hear silence than have something that I really wanted get shot down and then Jason be like, oh, well, it's okay. Like, we still have this other thing over here, or we can try something different. Like, I don't want to try something different.
Right.
So
there's a great video by Brené Brown that I heard recently about empathy. And if it's just a response saying, that's really hard, I don't know if there's anything I can do to help, but I'm really sorry. Like, that's enough. And just sitting in silence then. Yeah. Like, that's enough. And not trying to, she had said in the video, like, an empathetic response rarely actually, maybe never. An empathetic response never starts with at least. Like, well, at least,
Yeah.
at least this person is available. At least that vendor's available. At least this or that. Like, that is so invalidating. Don't do that. It's probably better to just say, like, I don't even have words to say right now, but that sucks. I'm sorry. And I'm just here. And you pull her in tight, you give her a hug, and you just sit in silence. And like, I think that's probably better than any other kind of trying to find the silver lining or problem solve or whatever. And maybe not. Like some of those problems, I guess maybe not assuming every little problem is a big problem. That's where you get curious. You ask, hey, what did this mean to you?
Yep.
If she's like, well, I was really hoping that this thing would work out, but it didn't. Oh, well, not a big deal. Maybe it's actually not a big deal, in which case you just keep on going.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a big deal, in which case you should probably just, sit with her and say, I'm sorry. That stinks.
Yeah. And on the other end of that, be excited with her too. If she's really, really excited about something and she's able to pull something together, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yes, match the energy.
I don't know how to tell you how heartbreaking that is when your future spouse is so excited about something and then you are unable to match that energy. Like, I just don't have words to describe it. Yeah. So yes, match the energy like all the way through. I think that'll serve you really, really well. Plus, it's just a handy skill to have for when you're married too. Like, there's gonna be some things in your marriage that maybe she's really excited about, but you're not as excited, but she really wants you to be excited. And if you can just match that energy, then that serves you both well, and vice versa. There's going to be some things that you're really excited about that she's like, oh, well, I could care less about this. But if she sees that you're excited and then she's excited, then you're both excited together. I think it's just a different level of bonding that is so fruitful and so healthy for the two of you to experience together.
Yes. All right. The other thing I was going to add on that is this is the time where, in supporting each other emotionally, especially through the engagement period, this is the time where the question, what do you need, is so important. Yeah. Get used to asking this question. We don't like asking this question because we think their spouse, our fiance, should just be able to read our mind. I think we talked about this in a previous episode. And that's not true. That's not real. That doesn't exist. My wife is giving me a face. It happens in the movies. But remember, those movies are fake. Those don't exist. The words coming out of their mouth, those were written by other people. That doesn't actually happen. Sometimes you have to say what you need.
Yeah.
So do that, please. Don't play the game of trying to read each other's minds. Just say, here's what I need. Maybe going back to when we were talking about, like, maybe you just need to exist. Maybe you just need a quiet night. Maybe you actually need to lock in for an evening for a couple hours and like actually get some crap done. Have the conversation up front leading up to, if you have one night of the week or 2 nights of the week where those are wedding planning nights, then ask the question in the morning or the night before saying, hey, what do you need for us to get done tomorrow for you to feel like we accomplished something big? Yeah. Ask that question and then have a goal. Both of you work toward that goal and start sharing what you need, because that's just like, you're going to need it in your marriage. That's just good communication.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right. One more.
Bum, bum, bum.
Question 10. The only one I didn't actually answer ahead of time. What advice would you give other men who are or are about to be engaged? Ooh. I would say go listen to the first 2 episodes of this podcast. Just take my advice on everything. No. The easiest, but also like biggest ROI piece of advice is surrounding yourself with men who are married or have a marriage you want and having conversations with them. I don't think I can understate how important that is and how helpful it will be. Have somebody that you can talk to and can give you support while you're trying to support your fiance. I had a couple of married men in my corner that I could talk to them and say, hey, like Bree is stressed about this, that, or the other thing. I'm trying to comfort her. Maybe it's working, maybe it's not, whatever. And they can say, oh yeah, I remember when we went through that. Keep your head up. They can offer you encouragement. They can offer you advice. They can give you some things to pay attention to and be mindful of. Really, I think rely on others. Don't try to go it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would be foolish for trying to go it alone and just figuring it out for yourself when there are so many people in the world, on the internet. You probably just go to your dad. I mean, I really hope you have a good relationship with your dad. Go to your dad, go to your uncle, go to a mentor, go to your father, your future father-in-law. There's got to be somebody in your corner who can speak into this area of your life. And if not, Derek or any other man listening, you can reach out to me. You can leave a question in the comments. I'll see it. If you have nobody, go ahead, leave me some questions. I'd love to talk. I'd love to answer and give some thoughts to your specific situation. But find a man who can speak into your life and can speak into your situation, somebody who can walk with you through it. Other advice, I would say it's heavy, which again goes back to you should not carry this alone. Go find a man. Do you have any thoughts so far? What do you think engaged men should know? Maybe really, really dive into the word. If you're not good at communicating gently and lovingly, work on that. Go read the scriptures and ask for guidance in that. Ask for a gentle spirit and kindness and love to approach your fiance, and your future wife, because that is going to be, you're never not going to need that. You're never not going to need the ability to approach a situation gently.
Yeah. I would say just really use your resources and the people around you and your future spouse. She is going to be your key asset. So if you don't feel comfortable going to her about everything or having the hard conversations or getting curious, if you can't do any of that, then I think there's work on your end to be done. And I think that's really important too. I think before we got engaged, Jason took a good chunk of time becoming the best version of himself and diving into who he wants to be, who Christ is calling him to be. What does that mean? What does that look like? And it wasn't for the purpose of, I'm doing this so that Bree will be interested in me and Bree will want to marry me. It was from the standpoint of, I'm doing this because this is who Christ is calling me to be. This is the purpose he has for me. And I think just leaning into that too, to better yourself, will be beneficial for not only you, but for your wife, for your kids, for the people around you. I once heard someone say, healthy people help other people around them get healthy. And so if you are working on yourself to be healthy, it's likely that will spill over into other people's lives and into your marriage and your relationships. And so I would encourage that. And then, use your resources. Use the other men around you. If you read books, find some books. We have really great recommendations for you if you need them. If you listen to podcasts, we have those too. If you listen to any YouTubers, we have those as well. And so just finding good resources that will guide you in the direction you're looking for, and then taking that information and deciding, okay, what do I want to keep? What do I want to toss? What do I want to consider? Maybe it's something you want to talk about your future wife with and get her thoughts on it. But I think all of it just goes back to surround yourself with the people who you want to look the most like, and use your resources and be curious. Always be curious.
I think last thing from me, specific to the men, but also can apply to the women, trust your fiance.
Yeah.
And use this as a time to start going to them with problems, with ideas, with things on your mind, and say, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Yeah.
Derek and Micaiah, I know you guys are both super smart. If you have an idea and you share it with one another and you say, what do you think? You guys are going to have good stuff to give each other. This is the time to really start leaving and cleaving. You leave your parents, your old family, your old friends, and I mean, hopefully not like totally cut ties, but like you start valuing and cherishing the input of your future spouse much more than anybody else in your life. And so this is the time to really start giving your future spouse a chance to speak wisdom and speak guidance into your life. The amount of times that like I'm still just so grateful to have Bree in my life, and I can go to her and say, here's what I'm thinking, here's an idea I have, maybe it's bonkers, maybe it's just like maybe it's just here's what I'm thinking about doing for fun on Friday night or whatever. What do you think? And we can have a good conversation about it. And I'm just super grateful to have a wife to whom I can go and talk about that. And so do that. Trust your fiance, trust your spouse, give them the opportunity to speak into your life. And I think that's it. Dope. Okay.
Don't do drugs. Stay in school. Okay, love you. Bye.
Yes. All right. Well, that will do it. If anybody else has any other questions, leave them in the comments. If we get the same question enough times, we'll probably do an episode about it. Either I will or we will or whatever. There we go. Micaiah, Derek, thank you so much for the questions. For anybody else who's listening to this, hope you got some value out of this. Hopefully you can compare it to your own experiences and see what works for you or what you maybe wish you would have done differently. Some advice that you can pass along to somebody else, some young whippersnapper or something like that. All right.
The youngins.
The youngins. But until next time, look at your life. You're worth being well. Thanks.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Like I had shown you mine.
What? That's it.